Okay. All right, close the door. All right. All right, everybody, welcome. We're going to work on hip opening tonight. So grab your blocks and blanket if you have, and we'll get started. You can sit on your folded blanket or on your block right now, just in a comfortable seated position. Sitting on the block or blanket helps to elevate the hips so that they can open and you can sit with a long straight spine. So here, just close your eyes. Begin to breathe slowly in and out through the nose, dropping into your mat, into the space, becoming present. And bring your right hand to your heart and your left hand to your belly so that you can feel your chest rising and falling with every breath. And feel your belly expanding and contracting with every breath. And just focus on that movement there as the breath comes in slowly and comes out slowly. Come here. Come here. And when you're ready, you can flutter the eyes open and bring the hands to the knees or anywhere comfortable on the legs. And we're going to start making small circles over the hips of the body. So when you come back, rounding the back and exhaling. When you come forward, arching the back and inhaling. Moving at your own pace with your own breath. Coming to center and pausing, rolling the shoulders down and back. And we'll inhale the arms up overhead and exhale to fold over the legs. Inhaling to come back up. We'll switch the way the legs are crossed and circle in the opposite direction. Still with the breath. Inhaling as you come forward, arching the back, and exhaling as you come back and round. Come here. And coming to center, rolling the shoulders down and back again, bringing the arms up overhead, and exhaling to fold forward over the legs. Inhaling to come back up. And we'll take the soles of the feet to touch, knees out wide. You can stay on your block or you can come off your block. I'm sitting on my folded up blanket, so whatever's comfortable for you. And we're gonna inhale the arms up overhead and exhale to twist to the right. Pausing here, the right arm can be in back of you like a second spine. Left hand grabbing onto the right knee. With every inhale, lift the crown of your head up to the ceiling, making space in the spine. And every exhale, twist a little bit deeper, eventually looking over your right shoulder to the back of the mat. Inhaling to come to center. And exhaling to twist to the left. Same setup here, left hand in back of you, right hand grabbing onto that left knee. Inhaling for length and exhaling to twist deeper. And then we'll inhale back to center. And we'll go side to side with our own breath. So every time inhaling to come up and then exhaling to twist. We'll move through this a few times at your own pace with your own breath. We'll do one more time on each side, ending with the left side. Meeting back in the center with the arms overhead. Taking the right hand next to the seat and leaning over to the right. Keeping the left hip bones rooted down into the mat. Reaching through the left fingertips, keeping the heart open. And inhaling to center and exhaling to come over to the left side. Pausing here, rooting that right sit bone down, reaching through the right fingertips. And we're gonna move with our own breath. So inhaling to come up, exhaling to come to the right. As quickly or as slowly as it works for you tonight. One more time on each side, ending with the left again. And then coming up to center. And you can bring your arms behind your back and grasp opposite elbows. If the elbows are not accessible, you can just grab onto your forearms. And we'll inhale to lift the chest. And exhale to fold forward over the feet. Moving slowly. If you experience any pain in any of the poses, definitely back out and take a little break. But discomfort is okay, and you can breathe through any discomfort you may be feeling. And then inhaling to come up, releasing the arms. And then we'll lay down on our backs on the mat. Is that good? Okay. So laying on our back, we'll hug the knees into the chest and just rock side to side, massaging the lower back. And then we'll extend our left leg long on the mat, hugging the right knee into the chest. And we're just gonna bring the knee from side to side, so moving it into our armpit and then back to center, starting to open up that hip. And then extending the leg long, reaching the sole of the foot up to the ceiling. And you can lift your head and your shoulders here and walk your hands up the leg towards your foot. Wherever your hands end up is fine. And we're just going to begin opening up the back of the leg. You can point and flex the foot, feeling the different sensations that creates up and down the leg. And you can make circles with the toes. And then we'll bring the shoulders and the head back down to the mat. Bend into that right leg, taking your right arm on the outside of the right leg. And the inside of the right leg, grabbing the outside of the right foot for half happy baby. If that's a little bit too much, you can bend your left leg, planting the left foot on the mat. Pulling that right knee down next to the right shoulder. Right foot is flexed up to the ceiling. And then we'll take the left foot to plant on the mat. Left knee is bent. And we'll take our right foot on top of the left knee to make a figure 4 shape. And we'll take the right hand to thread through the legs, grabbing onto the back of the left thigh or the front of the left shin in reclined pigeon. Keeping the right foot flexed, really feeling the opening in the outer right hip. And you can be still here, or you can rock side to side, whatever feels good to you. And coming to stillness for a moment, breathing space into that right hip. And then releasing the shape down to the mat, keeping your right leg where it is. We'll take our arms out wide and take that right foot down to the left for a twist, keeping the legs crossed. Shoulder blades melting into the mat. And if it's comfortable for your neck, you can look over to your right fingertips. Breathing into the twist. Inhale on top of that left knee, and we'll straighten that left leg and either grab onto the back of the left thigh or walk our hands up the left leg to hug the shape in closer to the body. You can let your shoulders and head come off the mat. And you can point and flex the foot, the left foot here, making circles with the toes. And then release that left foot down to the mat, uncross the legs and hug both knees into the chest. Rocking side to side again to massage the lower back. And then extending the right leg long on the mat, hugging the left knee into the chest. that knee from side to side, hugging it into the chest, and then hugging the left knee into the left armpit. Starting to open up the left hip. And then bringing it back to center, extending the left leg up for the sole of the foot to face the ceiling. And we'll walk our hands up the back of the left leg. Shoulders and head can come off of the mat here. Whatever's comfortable. Opening up the back of the left leg. Pointing and flexing that left foot. Drawing circles on the ceiling with your toes in both directions. And then bending into that left knee, taking your left arm on the inside of the left leg, grabbing the outside of the left foot for half happy baby. And again, if that's too much on the hip area, you can bend the left leg, planting the left foot on the mat. Pulling the left knee down next to the left shoulder. Sole of the left foot flexed up to the ceiling. And then bending into the right leg, planting the right foot on the mat, and taking the left foot to rest on top of the right knee. To make the figure four shape on the other side, threading the left hand between the legs to grab the back of the right thigh or the front of the right shin. Left foot is flexed. And you can rock side to side if that feels good for the left hip. Breathing into the opening that's taking place in the left hip. And coming to stillness, pulling the figure four shape into the body. And then releasing the right foot down to the mat, opening the arms wide, left foot still on top of the right knee, and bringing the left foot over to the right so it touches down on the floor for a twist. Keeping our shoulder blades glued to the mat. And looking over to the left fingertips if that's okay for the neck. And breathing into our twist here. Inhaling to come back to center, leaving the left foot on top of the right knee. We'll extend the right leg up and we'll just walk the hands up the back of the right leg, pulling the shape into the body, pointing and flexing the right toes. And then gently releasing back down to the mat. And we'll extend both legs long on the mat. Arms come up overhead. And we'll grab the left wrist with the right hand and start to pull the upper body over to the right. Hips stay planted where they are. So we're just pulling the arm and the shoulders over to the right. And then we'll start walking the feet over to the right. And when you can't walk the feet over anymore, we'll cross the left foot over the right. And breathe into the left side of the body. This is called Banana Asana. because you look like a banana in the pose. Breathing here. Being with the stillness. And then uncrossing the legs, walking them back to center. Bringing the arms back to center and stretching through the fingers and the toes. Feeling the difference between the right and left side of the body. And then we'll grab the right wrist with the left hand, pulling the upper body over to the left. Hips stay planted on the mat in the center. And then we'll start walking the feet over to the left. And when you can't walk them any further, crossing that right leg over the left. Feeling the opening all down the right side of the body. And just breathing into that opening. Surrendering to the stillness. And then uncrossing the legs, walking them back to center slowly, and then bringing the arms back to center, reaching through the fingertips and the toes. And then we'll hug the knees into the chest. And we'll roll back and forth, so almost coming to a seated position, massaging the entire length of the spine. A couple more rocks back and forth here, and then we'll come to a seated position. Coming to our seated position, and then rolling over the feet to come to tabletop. So in tabletop, you want your hips stacked over the knees, shoulders stacked over the wrists. And we'll move through a couple cat-cows here. Inhaling to arch the back, looking up. And exhaling to round. Inhaling to arch. Exhaling to round. Moving with your own breath. Waking up the spine. And then coming to stillness in the center, we'll start to make circles with the torso over the wrists. So we'll come forward and back and around. So feeling the outer edges of the hips here. And this movement can be as subtle as you want to make it or as big as you want to make it, really feeling into the outsides of the hips. And then just reversing direction. And then coming back to center, and we'll bring the hips back to come to child's pose. In child's pose, you can have your toes touching and open the knees wide so they're almost mat distance apart, and walk your hands out in front of you, letting the forehead rest on the mat or on a block. And with every breath, letting the hips sink further down to touch the heels. On an inhale, we'll lift up slightly, tenting the fingertips, and start walking the hands over to the right. Letting the hips sink down and back here, feeling the stretch all along the left side of the body. And inhaling back up, we'll come back through center and walk the hands over to the left. Coming back through center, pausing in the center, letting the forehead touch down on the mat or your block. With every exhale, letting the hips sink down and back further. And then inhaling to come back to tabletop. From tabletop, we'll step our right foot on the outside of the right hand. If the floor is hard, you can place your blanket underneath your left knee so that you're not uncomfortable here. Left knee is down, right foot is next to the right hand. This is lizard pose. So you want to let your hips sink forward and down. So you're feeling the opening in the front of the left hip and the opening on the outside of the right. Here, it's great to use the blocks if you want more space with the spine. And if you feel like you want more opening here, you can come down onto your elbows. And if that's comfortable, you can bring your elbows all the way down to the mat in front of you. And for even more of an opening, you can roll onto the edge of your right foot, bringing the knee out to the side. And you don't have to stay in stillness in this pose. You can move around a little bit, feeling into the different sensations that the movement causes. And just pausing wherever it feels extra nice. Bringing the sole of the right foot back down onto the mat and walking the hands back up. We'll take both of the hands to the right knee here, lifting the heart and sinking forward and down, feeling even more opening in that left front of the hip. And if it's accessible, you can bend into the left leg, taking the left arm back and grabbing the inside of that left foot. Opening the whole front of the left quad. And if you grabbed onto the left foot, releasing with control, bringing the hands back down and bringing the right knee back to meet the left. Moving through a couple of cat-cows to recenter. And then stepping the left foot on the outside of the left hand for lizard on the other side. So right knee is down on the mat. Again, you could put a blanket underneath that right knee if it's too much pressure. Letting the hips sink down and forward. Left foot is on the outside of the left hand. And just slowly coming down as you open into the pose. Using your blocks if you have them, slowly coming to the elbows if that's comfortable for you tonight. And if you're looking for more of an opening in the outside of the left hip, you can roll onto the outer edge of the left foot, letting that left knee all out to the left. Breathing into any discomfort. You're making space in your body here. Making sure all the while that we are not clenching our jaws, because surprisingly, our jaw is connected to the hips. So if you feel yourself clenching your jaw, you can just release the bottom jaw away from the top a couple of times. And then we'll bring the left knee back in, walk back onto the hands, starting to come up, bringing both hands on top of the left knee, opening the heart to the front of the mat, and bending into the right knee, taking the right arm back to grab the inside of the right foot, if this is accessible to you. Opening the whole front of the right quad. And still sinking the hips down and forward. And releasing the right foot with control, walking the hands back down. Bringing the left knee back to meet the right. Moving through a couple of cat-cows. And then taking the right foot to step between the hands here. So before the foot was wide, this time it's centered. And then we'll inhale the arms up. You want your front knee, your right knee stacked over the right ankle. Hips are sinking down and forward, opening here. Arms reaching straight up to the ceiling. And then we'll bring our hands down to frame the foot. You can use your blocks here, framing the foot. And we'll extend through that right leg, moving the hips back in space. Opening the whole back of the right leg. So here again, you can point and flex your foot, feeling the different opening that creates. Pausing anywhere that it feels good. And then we'll turn the toes out to the right. And pause there, breathing into the space that you're creating. Inhaling the toes back to point to the ceiling. And we're going to move forward and back a few times. So we'll inhale, bending into that right knee, opening the heart to the front of the mat. And we'll exhale, extending through the right leg, folding over the right leg. And inhaling to come forward, bending the right knee. Exhaling, coming back. We'll do one more. Inhaling, coming forward. And exhaling back. And then coming back to center, bringing the right knee back to meet the left. Moving through cat-cow. And then coming to center, taking the left foot to step between the hands. Inhaling the arms up, Left knee stacked over the left ankle, letting the hips sink down and forward, reaching the fingertips up to the ceiling. And then we'll take our hands down to frame the foot using the blocks or not. And we'll extend through the left leg, moving the hips back in space, pointing those left toes up to the ceiling. And breathing into the back of the left leg. You can point and flex those left toes here. And then we'll take those toes to point out to the left, feeling into the different sensation that creates. Inhaling the toes back to point up at the ceiling. Pausing here. And then we'll bend into that front knee, opening the heart to the front of the mat on an inhale. And exhaling, moving the hips back in space. Folding over that left leg. Inhaling, coming forward. Exhaling, moving back. Inhaling, coming forward. Exhaling, coming back. Inhaling to come forward, last time. Exhaling back. And then just coming to center, planting the hands and bringing that left knee to meet the right. Moving our blocks to the side. We will tuck the toes and press back into downward dog. In downward dog, if you're unsure about your stance, you can push forward to plank to see how far your feet and your hands are away from each other. So if you're good in the plank, bring your hips up and back. And we'll take our feet mat distance apart here and come onto the toes. And then take the heels over to the right and down. Opening the left side of the body, letting the head hang heavy. Inhaling to come back to center and exhaling, heels down to the left. And coming back to center, we'll extend the right leg up and back and bend the knee, opening that right hip here. And then we'll take our right knee to our right wrist for pigeon pose. So here you can definitely use your folded up blanket. So you have your right knee out to the right foot is over to the left side of the mat, back leg is pointing straight back. And you can take your blanket right under your hips if they're not touching down on the mat, so that your hips are square and you're not leaning off to either side here. And once you have your setup, you can begin walking the hands forward to fold over that right leg. Now this is a very deep hip opener, so make sure again that you're not clenching your jaw. And just relax and breathe into the pose. This is a pose that you hold for a more extended length of time, so we'll hang out here for a minute or so. Just closing the eyes, breathing slowly in and out through the nose. Resting your head down on the mat or onto a block or a pillow, or your arms folded in front of you. Continuing to focus your breath into that right outer hip. Being still in your pigeon pose. And then on an inhale, walking the hands back up to come up slowly. Pausing at the top, opening the heart. And then planting the hands, tucking those back toes to push back to downward dog. Pedaling out the feet here, feeling the difference between the two sides. And then inhaling the left leg up and back, bending into the left knee to open the hip. And then bringing the left knee to meet the left wrist to come into pigeon pose on the other side. The right and the left side may differ, so one side might be tighter than the other. That's totally normal if you can't come into the pose in the same way on both sides. So you can stick your blanket underneath your hips if they're super far from the ground. Keeping the hips square to the front of the mat, setting up, right leg pointing straight back. And when you have a good foundation, you can start walking the hands forward to fold over that left leg. Using your blocks and your blanket as needed. Slowly opening that left hip. And in your own time, letting the forehead touch down onto the arms or a block or pillow or blanket. Relaxing completely into the pose and breathing, opening into the left hip. Breathing slowly in and out through the nose, sinking deeper into your pigeon pose here. And then inhaling, walking the hands back up, pausing at the top, opening the heart up to the front of the mat. And then leaning over to the left hip, swinging the right leg around and extending the legs long on the mat, straight out in front of you. You can remove your seat from underneath you, sitting up tall. We'll inhale the arms up and exhale to fold over the legs. We're going to lead with our heart here. So we're trying to reach our heart to our toes. And when you can't come forward any further, gently let the head drop down. Feeling the opening all along the back of the spine and the back of the neck. And inhaling to come back up. This is going to be our final active pose before our final resting pose. So we're going to bend our right leg and we're going to take our right foot to come next to our seat. If that's too much on the knee and the hip joint, you can take your block or pillow or folded up blanket to come to sit on that. And if that's a lot for that right leg and the joints there, you can just stay right there with the seat elevated. And if you're okay with your bottom down on the mat and your leg bent, we'll inhale the arms up overhead and exhale to fold gently over that left leg. Not pushing too hard, being gentle with the bent right leg. And then we'll inhale to come up and we'll take the hands in back of the seat and start to slowly lower down onto the elbows, stopping anywhere if you feel too much discomfort. If the right knee starts lifting up off the mat, stop there and go back. You want that right knee to stay down on the mat. So maybe coming to the elbows. If you're comfortable, the hips are on the mat and the right knee is still on the mat. You can lower down to lay on your back, taking the arms up overhead. Again, stopping anywhere where you come out of alignment or feel super uncomfortable. You're still getting that opening, however deep you are in the pose. Breathing here for a moment. And then using the elbows and then the hands to push yourself back up. Using your hands to release that right leg out in front of you. Feeling the blood rushing back into the right leg. You can shake out the knees. And then we'll bend into the left leg, taking the left foot on the outside of the seat. If this feels like too much, again, you can put your block or folded up blanket underneath the seat and you can stay right there. If you're okay like this, we'll inhale the arms up overhead and exhale to gently fold over the right leg. Making sure throughout this pose that your hips are down on the mat and your left knee stays down on the mat. We'll inhale to come up. And then we'll slowly come back, one elbow at a time. Keeping that left knee down on the mat here. If you're okay on the elbows and you want more opening, we'll come back to lay down on our back, arms coming up overhead, keeping that left knee down, hips are on the mat, breathing into that left leg, being still in this pose for a moment. And then on an inhale, using the elbows and then the hands to slowly push you back up to a seated position. Using both hands to take the left leg out from under you, extending it forward, shaking out the legs. And then we'll slowly come to lay down on our mats. Using any props you might like, so you can take a pillow or a blanket underneath your knee. Sorry guys, I got disconnected for a sec. We're back. So we're gonna come back to lay down on our backs, however you're comfortable, legs straight out in front of you. Let the feet fall out to the sides. We're going to take a moment to bring our right hand again to our heart and our left hand to our belly, closing our eyes here and just feeling the breath moving in and out through the chest and the belly, feeling the chest rise and fall, feeling the belly expand and contract. And then after a few breaths, letting the arms come down by the sides, palms facing up to the ceiling, and closing our eyes for our final resting pose, Shavasana. Our final resting pose is one of the most important poses of the practice, where we let all the work that we just did integrate in the body. So take this moment for yourself, melting down into your mat, not controlling the breath, just observing, and breathe here and rest. When you're ready, with the eyes still closed, begin to bring movement back into the fingers and the toes, wiggling the fingers, wiggling the toes, rolling the wrists and the ankles. And then taking a big deep breath in and taking the arms over the head, stretching like you're just waking up. And then gently rolling over to one side and pausing there. And using your arms to push yourself up into a comfortable seated position. Bringing your hands to prayer in front of the heart, closing the eyes and bowing your head to yourself. Thanking yourself for making this time to move your body with your breath, connecting the body, mind, and soul together. Thank you guys for practicing with me. Namaste.